Hey everybody, I'm back with another miniature review, and today I'm reviewing some Heroclix by Wizkids. I had a comment regarding Pathfinder miniatures, which I believe are made by Wizkids, which I don't have any experience with, but I have actually lots of experience with Heroclix, made by the same company. I have actually referenced in other videos that I felt that the product was a bit variable in its sculptures across sets and in sets, but I'm just going to go over some of the released sets that I've got a couple of miniatures from the 5 sets that were Marvel based that I'd purchased, because I am a bit of a Marvel fan, I must admit. And so I'll go over what I consider to be a fairly decent example within a set and an example that I really think needs improvement, just to sort of illustrate that statement. And just a bit interested in other people's thoughts that play Heroclix or that are into these sculpts. And so I'm going to start with the ones that I actually like from the set. This one, the actual sculpt itself in the center is not, tremendously dynamic or anything like that, but I saw it as absolutely fine. And you'll notice these are all on bases that you play the game with. For those of you that aren't familiar with Heroclix, one of the things that's neat about it is a lot of what you need for a character is not. They do come with a card, but a lot of the information is on the base itself. And so cards are mainly referenced for special powers and that are individual to them, that have dialogue and things. But so this is Dark Star, and from the Captain America set, and it's the first set that got me into sort of Heroclix, and it's, I guess, about 2 years ago, in that area. And so I like the sculpt. A lot of Heroclix have moved into providing special effects, like with plastic and things for the character, which this one does have. It is got some number of different tones on the character, the orange and the yellow and the sort of dark purple black. In the face of this character, there's no major disfigurement or painting or googly eyes or anything like that, which sometimes you do see in miniatures and actually in Heroclix. And so I thought this was an example of a decent sculpt. I actually have always liked it, their choice to do it this way. One thing I'm going to just comment now that you'll see across all the Heroclix miniatures, to my observation, is that these generally do not have shading provided, where some miniatures try to provide a more realistic look through shading. My interpretation of that is that even as a miniature painter, you can try to do what people call a comic or a cartoon look, where even with shading it might be very, like a lightning might be very cartoony looking and just show like an extreme light color on the leg or something like that, versus a natural shade. The Heroclix, as I've observed and just kind of taking a look back at some of the miniatures recently, they don't provide shading, and I interpret it because they're comic book characters. They go for the comic book look, and that's my interpretation. Interested in other people's thoughts. And so I'm not going to criticize because there's no shading, even though I do feel that the types of shading you can provide to make realistic looks enhances the look of miniatures. It may not apply in this line of miniatures, though, as much. So that is what I consider to be a decent example from Heroclix. Here is coincidentally from the Master of Evil group team in Heroclix, and it's one that I like to play, and I really like this miniature in playing the game. But if you look at Claw here, you'll see the paint up here is not that great, the effect that they look for, and a lot of folks, I remember, and I agree, have pointed out the barrel-chested and the short arms and the large legs just being very out of proportion. The paint itself, and we'll see this on miniatures at times with Heroclix, I think, but you can see how the paint job and how they've missed spots and painted pink, on where the purple's supposed to be clearly, and it's just very monotone. Now I know Claw is like that, and you can see down here there's black on the foot where it was clearly a mistake when they were painting the space. And so this is sort of an example, I think, of a less than ideal Heroclix by Wizkids. Same set. I don't think, there are clearly some worse aspects to this miniature compared to the one I showed. Maybe not as striking as in some other sets. here again is the Hulk set. Now, I am not familiar with Scar in the Hulk comic. I don't really read comics anymore, and so I'm not familiar from when I was younger with this character, and I think he'd come out sometime in the last 20 years. But when seeing this miniature, and it came out in the Hulk set, I was immediately impressed with the sculpt and the paint job. I mean, I didn't look really closely for mistakes, but there weren't a lot of glaring mistakes. It is factory painted, and so sometimes you do see where that color runs into the other. But clearly the sculpt here, I think, is a good quality. Sorry, I'm just trying to get in closer here. I think it's a nice sculpt. I like the proportion, I like the pose. It's just a nice, solid sculpt. Thought they did a really good job. Lots of different colors and effort put into this. The one thing I didn't speak to is there is a rarity portion. I mean, this is a game where you get commons, uncommons, rares, super rares, chases. Like, they all have different rarities. You can argue, and I believe it is true, that as the rarity goes up, sometimes the quality of the sculpts goes up. I would also argue that there are plenty of examples where that's not true, where the commons actually look great, or a rare looks excellent, and the super rare or the chase is really either not that good in general, or not good for it being based on rarity. So I'll show you the one here that's called Jigsaw from the Hulk set. Now, if you look here, there's, you know, white paint splashed on here. And it's a very monotone paint job. It's not really that impressive. And when you look at the face here, it really doesn't look that good, in my opinion. Like the eyes, the way the eyes were done, you can see the skin on the neck there. Just not really that impressed. Like, the only color they tried to really do is his face, sort of like a black, collared shirt and black hair, like, other than the white. Now, I don't know, it just really doesn't look that good. I mean, even a simple kind of ink wash or something just to show some of the details on the coat would have been nice and very easy to do, probably, and still maintain that white color. But okay, so the next set is Galactic Guardians. I must admit I am significantly... I like Doctor Doom, let's just put it that way. From the comic books, I've always liked Doctor Doom. I think he's a really cool... He's like one of my favorite villains, if not my favorite villain in Marvel. And so I picked him not only because I suppose I was swayed a bit, but I actually do like this miniature. They provide a nice base on the miniature, some nice effects, of him casting his electricity energy. It's got metal paint here, metallic paint to show his suit. I do notice a little bit of a mistake there where there's some metal like on his shirt, but we've got multiple color schemes there. The pose is very dynamic. It's not grotesquely warped, in its paint job and its paint effects, in my opinion. I haven't been looking at these under the microscope, and to be honest, I've just pulled this out out of my Heroclix bins just to do this video. It's been a while since I've looked at it, but it looked to me like one that I think is a decent miniature for pre-painted. Like clearly, when I say these are decent, like they would be something I would enjoy playing on the tabletop in a game. Same set. I have Adam Warlock here. This is one where, his staff is permanently, it's fixed to the bottom and warped. It's not straight. It's not even that it was bent. I mean, it's fixed to the bottom and bent, so they ensured that it's bent. You've got the yellow here of his hair and his cape being exactly the same color. Eyes are just really not very well done. It just looks, in general, like a really poor job of a sculpt and of a paint job to me. I never liked this figure, and it's funny because he's like 149 points, and I think it's unique because it has this silver around the ring, but it's like, I think it's a rare for this set. I'd have to double check, but it's not, you know, it to me, like, even that rarity piece doesn't matter. Sometimes I use it against the system when it's a chase, you know, like some of the more really difficult ones to find. If it's a really bad sculpt, I'll use it, you know, as a criticism. But in general, you know, I just think it's not a great sculpt and miniature. Now I'm going to the Avengers set. This one is Baron Zemo. I really like the sculpt. I mean, he's got like the additional base here, but the quality of the colors and the pose of the sculpt itself, I think, is very good. The paint job, I think, is very good. Like, I would never have a problem using this. In general, like, you know, like, and this is something that does come up a lot. You can see there the paint just kind of went over there. But I think in general it's pretty decent. Now, from the same set, here is Bruce Banner. When we look at Bruce Banner here, you can see how his skin is bled all over the place. It's, you know, got missing here and chipped on the top. That wasn't from me. You know, we've got paint where it's not supposed to be on him, and his paint on the miniature where it's not supposed to be. You know, like, I know some people get really hard on them about static poses where you're just standing like that in the dynamic of the pose. I give kudos where the pose is a dynamic pose. You know, this is fairly plain, you know, but he's kind of a conservative guy when he's not the Hulk, so I won't blame him for that. You know, I think if it, again, like, if it actually had a bit more definition to the model and less mistakes and things like that, like, I think it could have been quite a bit better. But even the face itself, there's almost no definition. I don't know if it's the paint causing the features to get masked, but it's very, there's that mouth and nose you can see, but just barely. Like, there's very little definition. His glasses are all wonky. Look at that. You know, like, they don't even really look good at all. Like, it looks like they've botched the paint on the sides. Last one. And this is for a recent set that just came out this spring for the Spider-Man set. Now, I'm not going to focus on Howard the Duck as much here. I was just trying to look at the Spider-Man set. It was where I like the sculpt. I actually didn't get a Man-Thing because I played this game with my kids. My daughter got the plain Man-Thing, which is this sculpt without the Howard the Duck. This guy is a super rare, and he actually has Howard the Duck, and so it's like a duo figure almost in what they call on Heroclix. I'm going to focus on the Man-Thing for a moment, because really the Howard the Duck, they just took this duck and they just threw him on the top. You know, I don't really have a problem with it, but, you know, it's really just cartoon duck on there. Kind of cool. He has a little bit of a tie there. Not too bad, but looking at Man-Thing, and if I had him alone, that's what I would be reviewing here. This is a great sculpt. I mean, the sculpture on this is just really cool. And when I looked at the paint job, it's not exactly the same as the Blood of Grumish miniatures that I just did, but some of the blending of the brown into the green and the way they did this, like, it reminded me of that set a little bit, actually, that I just reviewed. I like it. I really like the way they did this blending. I really like the sculpt. I just think all around this is just a great miniature, in my opinion. And now for the ugly, the good, bad, and the ugly, I've got Rhino here. Now, I don't particularly mind the sculpt in some ways. Like, it's got some good definition. I do have problems with his size, like, right off the bat. I mean, here's Adam Warlock, and there's the Rhino. They do have some problems in Heroclix on keeping scale correct? And that, I have an issue with that, I mean, for sure. You know, like, you want to keep your scale decent. And they do sometimes a horrible job of that. Looking at the face, which, as I said in my other videos, I mean, if you mess up the face, then it really sets a tone for the whole miniature. really poor, right? I mean, like, again, like the definition in the face isn't really that much. The painting is just really not that impressive at all. I realize he's gray, but they really, sometimes if you're going to do a solid color, you need to, and it's going to be very plain looking, like, because that's just the nature of the character. You need to make up for that somehow in texture. Now, yeah, like there really is a lot of definition in the sculpt itself of the musculature, but maybe having to do something with the texture would have helped. But I just think overall, its size, proportion, the paint job on the face, like it's just really not that good. I wish I had it, but for those of you that are Heroclix fans, from the Sinister set, which is a really, really old set that I picked up like retrospectively, like, you know, so like many years after, you know, I got my hands on some of these miniatures. Many years after it was released, they actually had an awesome Rhino Sculpt, one of my favorite sculpts in Heroclix, and it's much bigger, much more definition, a much better job. And that was from years ago. Admittedly, I think it was when Wizkids didn't own the line of Heroclix. It was prior to Wizkids' purchase, so you know, probably different processes at the time. But when you buy a company, I think you, to a degree, in my opinion, you buy its expertise and its, you know, historical offerings, and so, you know, I'll make the argument that they should have actually met or exceeded the prior Rhino. That's just my personal opinion. So that is a snapshot of some recent Marvel Heroclix sculpts, you know, by Wizkids, and an idea and just sort of more info to what I was talking about when I said variable quality across the product. Okay, everybody, thanks for watching this miniature review, and catch you on the next video.